I see the conversations are always around budgeting, planning for the maternity leave, and there's almost no conversation around what happens when that woman has to go back to work. What happens if she actually wants to put the healthy attachment of her child first? What happens when your workplace isn't flexible enough? What happens when workplaces discriminate against women and don't hire you for roles?
Exactly.
Right? No one talks about that stuff.
Welcome to the Lyssn podcast, your space to tune out the noise and tune in to the wisdom that already lives inside you. I'm Alyssa, and through soulful conversations and grounded reflections, we explore what it means to live your bliss, to walk through life aligned, intuitive, embodied, and lit up from within. Because the answers you're seeking, well, you already hold them. The real question is, do you have the courage to listen? Hello, listeners, and welcome back. I am so excited for today's episode. I have invited one of my beautiful friends and biz soul sister, Rachel Smith, to come on today and have a really open, real, and raw conversation around everything from motherhood to online business, feminine energetics, and she's helping me voice how I really feel about stepping into this new season of matrescence. Rach has asked some really big, juicy questions around why I chose this business when I was still a single Pringle for my future family, and how grateful I am to my past self for making those choices so that I get to stay home with my beautiful baby boy, Leo, contribute to my family financially. But not just that, it's the physical presence that I get to contribute to my family because I can and because I chose differently. We also dive deep into something that feels absolutely revolutionary to both of us, and that is the power of feminine energetics in business and how radically different it feels to build a business and a life that honors your body, your cycles, your rhythms, your intuition, your soul gifts, and your nervous system. And when we talk about feminine business, it's not about vibes and vision boards. We're talking about a new paradigm. Masculine structures get to hold and support you while you move freely in your feminine flow, where magnetism replaces burnout and you get to honor your inner goddess while still making so much magic in the world. So ladies, this one is for you. It is time for us to finally let go of all the ways that we've been taught to work and to really step into a new way of being, a way that allows us to be magnetic, truthful, authentic, receptive, attractive, creative, and rise in our feminine power. And men, you're not off the hook. If you love a woman, this is still absolutely for you, because understanding how we are meant to show up in the world and move in the world, trust me, it will change your relationships in the very best way. All right. Welcome, everyone. We are here with the amazing Rachel Smith, who is an embodiment coach in the online space. She is helping women to be their very best selves in that online space, as well as still a relationship coach.
More word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
But my priority is women in general, right? And it doesn't really matter where we are, what we're doing, or what we're learning. The way we met was purely through relationships, right? So relationships are the foundation of everything, business, love, life. And I think the way that we connected was actually that shared value around wanting to embody different conscious relationships in our life. And Enagic kind of brought us together in a way.
Absolutely.
And I think that's actually the same for everyone who comes into Enagic. They're women like old souls, healers. We have deep connections and we all kind of just find each other and come together in the online space and create magic, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we actually found each other in the online space. We were both following the same people and we ended up connecting and just got along like a house on fire. And then next minute, Rachel was talking about this amazing product, and lo and behold, it was actually something that I had already wanted and had manifested into my life. So I feel like our connection is quite magic in that way.
Yeah. And you were reading I'm Badass at Making Money or something like that, a money book.
Yeah, you
and
were
I was like,
at Making Money, great book.
Yeah. And I was like, I think you need to see what this business is.
Yeah, because I wanted the products, right? I just came into it going, I was really sick at the time. I was going through complete and utter heartache. You helped me with my bio for my Hinge profile, and it worked really well, guys. That's how we called in Geronimo. So yeah, I think when it comes to this business, there is just so much underneath it that it just trickles into every other aspect of life, right?
Yeah. And it's completely underestimated. Like, you don't know what you're walking into. You don't know the upgrades, the up levels, the journey that you will go on just by being in the room with other women who are radiating, embodying, and holding themselves to a very different standard than maybe any other woman that you've met before. And that's actually how, like, most of you might have met us. You might have met us like at an event, out in the community, or we just have followed us on Instagram. And what usually draws people to the collective is the energy that we radiate. And they're like, what are those women doing? And that's exactly how I met Rosie, my mentor. And once I saw that energy, I suppose I just couldn't not know that feeling, right? And not want to pursue it. And I had to detach from exactly how I thought that would happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have this vision in our head and this idea of like, oh yeah, it's got to happen this particular way.
Yeah.
Or, and that never is the case.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, your life usually has to fully, completely change. And that requires a lot of unlearning who you are.
Yeah.
So that you can become a new version of you, an up-leveled version of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And we were just talking about that recently. Like, the reason why we're on here with this podcast is Lyss has gone through a complete transformation post the birth of her beautiful son, Leo. And I was like, you need to share this.
Yeah. And it's something that I've been struggling to put a voice to and to figure out exactly what it is that I want to say, because there is so much that has changed. And yet there's also a lot that feels the same. And wanting to share that has been at the forefront of my journey, but also something that has felt so big. So thank you for being here to help me navigate through this and to sort of, put words to what I already know to be true. And so that hopefully you guys can get to know me a little bit better. And we can kind of dive into all the changes that have occurred post this miraculous thing called birthing a child into the world.
And because, like, women connect through story and we connect through shared experience. And, you know, if you're not in circles of women who are having these conversations, you may not even know it's possible. And for me, in my experience, in terms of what I wanted in my life, be it relationships, connections, money, business, whatever, I actually had to step into a completely different version of myself before the results arrived, or before that man I was calling in even arrived. It wasn't just visioning it, but it was really embodying those behaviors and having complete faith in the journey. And this is why I think it's so important to share the story, sometimes in retrospect, because it may not make sense how you even got there.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that usually is always the way, right? In hindsight, you look back and go, it all had to happen that way so that I could become this version of myself, because I couldn't hold it all if I wasn't this version of myself.
Holding it all.
Yeah.
I think there's so much in that. Do you want to share a little bit more about what that actually meant for you? Because I feel like that was a big part of transformation. And it is when you become a mother, you are holding way more than before.
Yeah. Obviously your body is expanding during pregnancy to hold a literal human. So it starts from that first moment that you find out you have a child, right, inside you. And the body expands. But it's not just the expansion of the body. It's the expansion of you as a human. It's the expansion of the mind, the spirit, the energy, your aura. Everything is expanding. And it's also dissolving who you once were so that you can become who you're meant to be.
Yeah.
And I guess that's that transition from maiden to crone, right? And a lot of people will fight that because it's hard. It's hard to completely let go of who you know yourself to be so that you can become the version of yourself that you know you want to be, but it's full surrender, full surrender. So you've got that physical aspect, and then you're literally a divine sacred portal to bring forth a life into the world. Like, I've always known as a woman, I've connected with my womb. I've known how important that creation energy is, but to really actually go through that experience of giving birth. I mean, I know it's such a cliche and everyone's like, you won't know until you've done it. You won't know until you're there. But it really is a complete rebirth of yourself, as well as a birth of this beautiful soul into the world. And I think that stepping into fully that matrescence and motherhood, I know so many people who have really, what's the word that I'm looking for? Mum brain, everyone. It's a real thing.
We're just real women here, let's be honest.
Absolutely. Resisted is the word I'm looking for. Guys, I'm sure you were screaming at your phones or whatever you're listening to. Yeah, there are so many women who I know who have totally resisted this expansion into motherhood because in some way our society has told us that it's a lessening when really it's not. It's a complete expansion. And yeah, you do have to allow a part of yourself to die. But on the other side, it's just pure magic and bliss and divine sacred role that we get to play, I guess, if you want to make it seem like, you know, all the world's a stage. But it is, you get to step into this new role and you get to step into this new idea of who you are. And it requires sacrifice and it requires you to completely be unselfish. And that's huge.
Yeah. And there's such a huge maturation, right? Yeah. Not that I've given birth myself, but I have watched and worked with women who care for children, parents of children for over a decade. And I've watched it time and time again. There's such a maturation that comes with the initiation to parenthood. But you spoke about something before, which is like kind of like the ego deaths, right? Of like growth and who you actually want to become. You know, when a woman is pregnant, it's a finite timeline when that is occurring through the birth portal. But outside of that, like a woman, what she learns through that process is so generalizable to the maturation of you as a woman. Because like any woman who comes to me and says, I want this kind of relationship, I want this kind of money, I want this kind of life, in the back of my mind, I'm like, how courageous are you? Because you're going to have to go through those ego deaths, those identity deaths. And with those identity deaths usually comes a loss of senses or self and parts of you, or even connections that you've made or relationships you've had.
And that can be hard.
And that's the grief and the loss that you feel when you go through these initiations. And motherhood is probably that to a whole nother level. But it just shows women what they are actually capable of.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's another shifting of the identity. But one thing I really want to talk about today, because you're in a whole new phase of life, is the way women are working, right? You and I actually have some really shared values around the feminine, the sacredness, her power and what she holds.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what we both have felt is how misaligned women feel in the way that they've been taught to work.
Yes.
And then they give birth to beautiful children and then they feel that pressure to go back to work.
It's huge. It's huge. And I see it. I obviously have expanded my circles through giving birth, and we gave birth through a beautiful place called Coast Life Midwifery. And within that space, we connected with other mums who were going through the same process that I was going through. And it's meant that I've had these beautiful connections of women on the exact same path as me, but seeing everybody's journey post-birth and that postpartum experience and what that's looked like for so many of them, all of the actual healing, physical healing aside from what it takes to give birth, seeing the emotional toll that it's taking on people, and all of these women who may have their identity wrapped up in their work, who post-birth, I have vivid memories of women in this group saying, no way am I staying home. I'm going back to work. That's a big part of who I am. And I guess that all comes back to your identity and how you see yourself too, because obviously that's connected. But then post-birth, they're going, wow, I didn't know I would feel this way. And now I'm with my beautiful baby and I don't want to give that up. I don't want to go back to work. My maternity leave has just run out. My paid parental leave has just run out. I don't get anything else from the government. So now I don't really have any other options. And the struggle that they're facing, where I can just see their heart is going, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
I don't want to, and I shouldn't have to, but people do feel forced because of the cost of living and everything else that we're experiencing in the world at the moment. And look, some of them do have savings, and so they're living off that at the moment. But there isn't an energy where they're feeling safe to stay home. And that's what this business has given me and so many other mums, where we have the nervous system support from this business that allows us to sink into what it is that we actually want. What is a full body yes for us? Because the reality is so many women have to say yes to things that they don't want to because of external circumstances. And this business allows you to really create your life in the way that you want to.
Yeah. And it's like your identity as a woman and your leadership as a woman is actually who you are as a person, and you execute from that place.
Totally.
Like, I definitely had my identity way too caught up in my career, and many times that came crashing down, be it during COVID, business decisions that affected my income, et cetera, et cetera. And there were ego deaths that came with that because my sense of self-worth was too caught up in the career that I had shaped for myself. But the other thing this comes down to is a money conversation, right?
Yes.
Like if I look at financial advice in different groups all the time, and when people are about to, they're planning on getting pregnant, planning on having a baby, and people are posting in financial groups with financial advisors and other women around how do you prepare for when you're having a baby. And I see the conversations are always around budgeting, planning for the maternity leave, and there's almost no conversation around what happens when that woman has to go back to work. What happens if she actually wants to put the healthy attachment of her child first?
Exactly.
What happens when your workplace isn't flexible enough? What happens when workplaces discriminate against women and don't hire you for roles?
Exactly.
Right? No one talks about that stuff.
Well, that's the thing. We want to expand our family. Now, if I wasn't in this business model, I'd be freaking out. And I'd be thinking about what all the other mums are thinking about. They want to try for number 2, but they have to plan around going back to work, finding work that they can do for at least another 26 weeks or so. So they'll be eligible for the paid parental leave. And it's like, well, hang on a second. If you have something else that's going to allow you to do exactly what it is that you want to do in exactly the way that works for your nervous system and for your baby's schedule and for your home life, why? To me, it's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
But it's something that people just don't even think is a possibility.
Yeah.
Because it sounds too good to be true. And people don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And then they sink into, okay, well, how preventative? Yeah, it goes to the preventative. How can I make that happen within the restraints of what I already know?
Yeah, versus like within the expansion of how do I actually want to feel as a mother? What kind of attachment system do I want my family environment to be? What kind of life do I want to lead? How do I actually want to feel as a woman?
Yes.
That's a total different way of raising a family. But I think it also starts with these conversations between women way before you're even trying to get pregnant.
Yes.
I mean, I know so many women who start in the Enagic business for the future of the mum that they want to be.
That was me. I mean, I came into it for the water. I came into it because I was unwell. And those of you who know my story, I have Crohn's disease. And I had heard so much about the water and what it could do for me and my physical health, but I had no idea everything that was attached to it. And if it weren't for you actually saying, well, hang on, I know you really well, and I know that you probably need to also know this other information. If you hadn't have told me and then I found out later on, I would have been annoyed. I would have been pissed. I would have been like, how dare you not tell me about this amazing opportunity? Yeah. And you knew I had that entrepreneurial spirit and that it was going to be perfect for me. But that was an edge that I needed to come up to as well.
Yeah. And this is about being in full service.
Mm.
Like I've learned through working with parents, my job isn't necessarily to be liked. My job is to get you the outcome where you want to go.
Totally.
And that actually starts even in the conversations of where if someone is looking at an online business or even if they've heard of the products and they just want the products, I'm actually not doing my due care to you if I don't open you up to a conversation around what else is possible. Because I have seen so many women and felt the experience myself of how much change actually occurs when you choose to take on a whole new paradigm of business, when you actually commit to learning the skill sets of a personal brand, finding your voice, finding your truth, you know, doing your research around health and wealth and really getting educated and informed around your options and solutions that are out there online, but also from a product point of view. When you get really empowered in that way and you look at the business model, it is an absolute no-brainer, you know, because
100%.
we can be doing anything online. You know, you already had a personal brand. I desired to create one, right? So, but women already have so many facets of skill sets from other careers, from other businesses that they can bring into the online space, and they underestimate how ahead they even are. Like if you have a career, you can absolutely do online business.
Totally.
Like it is, in a way, it's just a whole new paradigm of working. And that's why we both started before we were mamas, right? Because it's like we saw the potential in what was coming before it even came. And it was really just about embracing a whole new way because the value of relationships and family came first, and not just the value of relationships and family where we wanted to go into complete submission.
No.
Right? We are very happy to receive from masculine. We are. We love
Absolutely.
it. We love it.
Magnetic.
We love it.
Come on in.
But we also believe in sovereign sources of income. We believe in supporting ourselves and co-creating to the magic inside of our relationships.
Oh, 100%. And if anything, all it has done is elevate my relationship.
Actually, we need to talk about this.
Yeah.
Talk about this. Yeah, I found the same too. So when I found the same too, when I started online, I learned skills inside my online business that changed how I dated men online. It changed the conversations that I had with my friends because there were skills that you learn in, be it sales, be it being a personal brand. A personal brand is actually just being yourself and removing all the masks and all the shit that you put on yourself to be a career person. When I did all of that, I actually found myself and found my happiness. And of course, the happiest people attract the best relationships.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear from you what changed inside your relationships.
Ooh, well, I was going through a breakup at the time. So for me, I chose it for myself and for my future family, right? And then what it allowed for me was to completely dissolve all of the ego and all of the attachments and self-sabotage and everything that I had, which, you know, I mean, it's parallel to motherhood as well. The same thing happens when you become a mother. All of that dissolves and all you're left with is truth. And then that truth allows you to show up honestly, authentically, with integrity. And that's what people are attracted to. And that's where people go, like you were saying earlier, what are these women doing? How do I get a piece of that? How do I become that woman? And men are attracted to that. So it's not just women going, I want a piece of that. It's men going, I want a piece of that as well.
Yeah, they feel you in your power, I actually think and they feel you in actually your sense of connection to yourself at the end of the day, because you can't have a personal brand and be disconnected from who you are. It will show up as fake marketing. People will feel it in your energy, right?
Yes.
Like the best personal brand is something that is just indistinguishable between you on the street and you online, right? Because you are just being yourself, and people love that kind of relatable content where people are just in their homes or being themselves, because that's who other people are behind closed doors as well. Like that's what actually makes it relatable at the end of the day. But the power actually stands in owning who you are, not who you were taught to be as a woman, not who you were taught to be to get a man to like you. And men pick this up, right? Men can pick up whether you're a woman who's out there trying to get a man to like you versus a woman who actually really likes herself. And liking yourself is so multifaceted, right? It's that inner love you have for yourself, but it's also those really tough decisions you make when things aren't going your way, you know, ending that relationship if it's not aligned.
Yeah.
You know, having those tricky conversations that really speak your truth of what you're desiring deep in your heart, and then making the decisions, be it financial investments, be it boundary setting, be it, you know, making that pivot to change what you're doing and create a whole new life. Like those are the kind of decisions that you are stepping into. And even starting an online business, that first step that women take when they're starting online, that is just that first little step.
Yes.
That represents the courage of the empowerment that they step into. And whatever you believe about yourself ends up being what you create in your business as well. And that is a part of the empowerment journey, right? Is bringing women back to just see their self-belief that was probably like hidden among other stories, but it's really just about bringing women back to who they really are and loving themselves.
Essence. Yeah, absolutely. When you're a child, like you have no inhibitions. You get to just be who you are. Nobody's judging you. And then at some point, all of a sudden, all of those other external things start coming in. And then we have to learn how to present ourselves in the world with this mask, right? So the beautiful thing about the business is it has allowed me to really, I mean, my brand is Lyssn, but it does. You need to tune out all of that stuff and tune in and listen to what is going on within you, your intuition, your body, everything. And like you said, it's a relearning who you know you yourself to already be. And just bringing it back to the partnership side as well. It took a little bit of time for Geronimo to get on board. He was like, what are you doing? What is this water thing? Like he was all down for the water and its benefits and all of the things, the actual physical, tangible thing he could see, you know, the logical masculine side. But then when it came to the actual business side, he was like, this doesn't make sense. I'm quite confused. What the heck is this thing? And then when he finally came in with me, he leant in and he became curious. And it wasn't just me going, I'm doing this thing. That's when things really started to shift, because that's when he saw the potential of the business. He saw the potential of not only the physical things that the water could do for us, for our health, but then also what it could do for our family, for our legacy, for our sovereignty as a family, which has been pretty amazing too.
And it's just something that, like, if you're not in the online space, you know, people from the outside, when they look at online business, they see offers and products, right? Yeah. And it's like part of what we offer is a product, but a digital product too, right? Which is what we call automation. Yeah. But automation is what I really feel is like the healthy masculine structures that are built into a business.
Which for a feminine is very important.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is why specifically Alyssa and I choose this model over others, because we want those kind of structures in place.
Yeah.
Because of the values we hold for how we do our own personal development, but also the values we hold around family and relationships. And we recognize if we don't have work and business systems that have that really healthy structure around it, that desire we have to be in our feminine is going to be put on the back foot. And I really I cannot like stress this enough. I have so many conversations with women about this at the moment. Yeah. In my DMs, they're like, I want to be in my feminine energy, but I don't quite understand how it relates to the product. And what I say to that is, it's just the vehicle. The product is the vehicle to the destination of spaciousness, where you are receiving passively and directly. So you do work that attracts people to you who are also like-minded to you, who are, yes, investing in a real product and the digital assets for a whole business system structure. But the way the business structure is built, there are opportunities for those who actually do the work, right? For those who work on themselves, who learn the skill sets of personal brand and sales.
Yeah.
That's where you get the passivity coming in. But what I've actually noted coming back to the identity piece is even before my Enagic business gave me income in passive ways. So like say I'd be seeing clients at work and then a sale would pop in. I'd be like, oh, completely unexpected.
Totally.
But before that happened, I really had to soften. I really had to let go of the way I'd been taught to work over in healthcare. I had to prioritize my self-care, my energetics work, yoga, meditation, and really connecting to my feminine. And then leads came in.
Yeah.
So it's also a business that actually rewards you the more your feminine you are. It's actually like incredibly fascinating how it functions.
Yeah.
But that is how energetics works.
Totally.
Right? It's attracting in the same people who also want the same as you. But when you come from masculine business, you're like, well, how does it work? How many products do I have to sell? Like, I need to know exactly how it's going to work out. That is because you have been conditioned under the masculine paradigm. Is it time to lay down our swords and say, you know what? We've never been taught how to work a feminine business, and we already have masculine structures there. They work. So can we actually just soften, let it go, and understand and open up to maybe there are other ways of earning income than you've ever been taught, ladies?
Yes. And we're doing it.
To address that, because I feel like I haven't.
It's huge.
And it's the same with dating. I'm like, can you let go of needing to plan the dates, needing to know where it's going to go, needing him to write back?
Well,
can you
that
trust?
surrender piece, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Trust and surrender. It's the quintessence of femininity. To be able to receive, you have to trust and you have to surrender and allow. Because if you don't, you're just attempting to create something, which we are creators. But if you're in your unhealthy feminine, you're trying to create something. And
from the wrong energy.
Exactly. You're controlling.
Oh, there's so much to this. There's so much to this. And this actually makes me think about the frequency of the water.
Yes.
I haven't actually seen anyone address this because Alyssa's also a Reiki master, right? So we're talking energetics.
Yeah.
I want to know from your perspective overlaps between energetics of the water and energetics in general. Because what I notice inside the Enagic business is it has a very high frequency, so much so that all of the parts of you that aren't high frequency, all the shadow actually kind of needs to flush away.
Yeah.
And well, let's say the water also flushes, right? It's toxins, but that wasn't the point. I find there's a frequency of the business collective and of the water itself.
Yes.
And so there is an up leveling that occurs by being in the space of people who all operate at that frequency. But obviously the water itself has a frequency.
It does.
Yeah.
If you can see the water, I'm actually drinking it for anyone who's watching the video. And I've been drinking it this whole time because it's just, I can't not have the water actually with me now. And you can tell the difference immediately. Like Geronimo and I have had parties with people who have never drunk this water before, and we've played games with it and gone, who can guess which one is the higher vibrational water? And they can always pick it every single time. It's not only taste, but it feels like it's literally made for our bodies, which is pretty darn magical.
Yeah.
And when you look at the history of the healing waters of the world, that's what we've recreated with this water. It is a medical grade water for anyone who's not sure what we're talking about. We're talking about Kangen water. And yeah, exactly what you said. It's a high frequency, but everything's frequency, right? So for me, it was a beautiful and very easy and natural parallel to my energy work.
Yeah.
And that really made it quite simple for me because just like water, you want things to not be stagnant. You don't want things, let's just use a water analogy, right? Stagnant water, it's murky, it's cloudy, it's like breeding bacteria, it's, can create disease. That's how your brain will be if you don't allow things to flow. Energy is just, emotion is energy in motion. If you're not in touch with all of that, then it's not going to flow. And then you're going to end up with disease. And that was what I discovered through my Crohn's. And that was a huge thing for me. It is. I'm going to actually take a sip of this water. I've just been holding my water.
Well, just to add to that, tap water is dead water. So not even not even just like when we're talking about contaminated water. I mean, your tap water is contaminated. You probably just don't know that it is, but more so your tap water is dead water. So if we're looking at the frequency and the energetics of a water, it's oxidative stress, even when you're taking in water. And obviously soft drinks are more oxidized.
Oh, yeah.
So when we're talking about the frequency of the water being an antioxidant, we're talking about negative oxidative reduction potential, which is actually what makes it an antioxidant, right?
Yeah.
Which actually what is bringing up the whole health frequency of the body.
And it's potent. It's really potent.
Yeah, exactly.
And you'll notice.
Well, this is the thing. The more in tune people are with their energy, the more they actually notice when they switch their water. But, for anyone who's like not even filtering their water and maybe on tap water, that was me when I started, just by the way, had no idea. But the more you learn, the more you wake up, the more you understand.
Yes.
The more you read the research as well. Well, research is catching up. I mean, there was definitely a big wave of hydrogen products at the start of this year. But the main thing that people need to know is actually the quality and the standard of the machine that the water is coming from. And all those hydrogen bottles are certainly not it.
I had one of those. I definitely had one of those. And I mean, we're all at a different point on our journey. So if that's you, we're not judging you by any means. But yeah, I had a hydrogen bottle. I still actually have it. And I've tested the two and there is no comparison, guys. I should probably do a video on that.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a video on that. Write that down over here. But yeah, I mean, really, it is something that you just can't dispute once you've tried it.
Yeah.
And I think for anybody who is more sensitive and more in tune, they understand how energetics work. And so when you know what you know, when you know better, it's very hard. I think that was my issue. I knew that hydrogen was going to help me. I knew that electrolyzed reduced water was going to help me. I had a lot of blocks, financial blocks, and just even wanting to be seen, standing in my power, all of that kind of stuff. So there were a lot of blocks that I had to get rid of. And again, that was that sort of ego death as I came into the business as well. And I do think for anybody who is in the healing space, understanding that everything is frequency, when you get that, then when you know that there's something better, it's very hard to not choose that. And in not choosing that, you are essentially saying to your body and your soul, I don't trust you. And that's going to continue to filter into everything else.
Well, it just caps you. It limits you, right? It limits your experience of what's possible. Like you're not trusting your intuition enough to know that the healthy decisions you make are preventative.
Yeah.
And lifestyle diseases are the most expensive in the medical system. I've been on the other side as well, right? So let it be known, preventative is where it's at.
Yeah.
But I think when you're not in that space, we generally have an entitlement of that's not me and that hasn't happened yet.
Yes.
But to prevent those things happening, that's where it's like that sovereign relationship with your body and a trusting, healthy relationship with your body of the things that you're putting inside it.
Yes. Well, imagine if you knew this existed, but for whatever reason, kept saying no, and then something does happen. How can you then sit there? This is what I think anyway. How can you then sit there and go, well, I'll just make my peace with it? I'm not that type of person. I can't do that. I mean, I've spoken to so many people who go, oh, well, it's not aesthetic enough for my kitchen. Or, I just don't think that it's something that I need. And it's like, okay, you may not need it now, but how important is your health to you?
Yeah.
What's the cost?
Or how important is your appearance to you?
Totally.
Because I can guarantee you, like I'm pretty much makeupless today, but most people say most people say to me, like, how's your skin like that?
Yeah.
Water, meditation.
Yeah.
Like I'm not Botoxing. I'm not doing anything else. And, this is, everyone values different things, right? And, aesthetics is important, but I can guarantee you the aesthetic benefits of the machine always outweighs the aesthetic benefit, of the machine on your bench. Yeah. I suppose what we're really talking about here when it comes to the power of the water is also the investment that comes with it. Like, when we're talking about it, it is a luxury item. When you're awake, in tune, energetically aligned, you know that your body is the vessel, right?
Yeah.
And it is the number one thing you invest in. think about how much you invest in breath work, energy clearing, therapy, changing your behaviors, et cetera.
Yeah.
What you put in your body, food and water, is just as important as all of those things.
Oh, it's
In
the
fact,
root.
they undermine all that work, right? If the physical vessel isn't at an optimum.
Needs to be your foundation. Think about it. We are literally predominantly made up of water. How can we go through life and not think that that's important? But that being said, it is, like we said earlier, an unlearning of all of the things that we've been programmed with through society, through everything else.
Yeah. Literally cleaning up our lives on all levels, right? Like the
Totally.
programming around the food we eat, the water we drink, the way we've been taught to work, how we feel about money.
Oof,
Coming
big
back
one.
to trust here, like when you're investing in a machine, you are also investing in the trust in yourself to expand your business.
Absolutely.
That you're going to expand your skill set, right? To be able to grow a business. And that, again, all comes down to the trust and the expansion. And you may not be in that energetic when you start, but
And that's okay.
That's exactly why you start.
That's me. I was like literally a crumpled up little shriveled thing on the floor crying, devastated. My whole world, like it was a full tower moment. My whole world was crumbling down. I knew that I needed the water, and that was the most important thing. And then I actually had my call with Rosie, and Rosie went, okay, well, if it's that important to you, then you really need to make some changes. What are you going to do to be able to actually create what it is that you say you want?
So the other thing I want to address is, like, so many women come to me in my DMs. They are looking for leveraged income, or they're looking to up-level their money mindset or be in their feminine. But a lot of them already have their own offer or their own businesses. And I wanted to open this conversation up because it's like, how does a product-based business that is semi-automated going to fit into what I do now?
Totally.
In my case, I was in healthcare when I started. You are performer, Reiki master, many, many hats on.
Oh, yeah. Multi-skilled.
Multi-skilled, right? And it's
multi-passionate, multi-skilled, just all of the things. But yeah, I had way too many hats.
Yeah.
Way too many hats and no strong foundation to actually hold all of that. So I was paycheck to paycheck, finding every next gig, struggling, holding on to money. Like I had savings. I would always have savings. I needed that buffer because I was terrified that something would happen, like me getting sick, and then I wouldn't have anything to, like, I was bedridden for 6 months. I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't walk. Like it was my worst nightmare. I'm a dancer, like have been since I was 5-6 years old. So when all of that came crashing down for me, I was like, whoa. When this showed up, I went, oh, this can hold all of that.
Yeah.
Because then I'm not gig to gig. I'm not struggling finding clients. I'm not expecting one-on-ones, which is capped, to be able to hold everything that I need it to hold. And I think, yeah, a lot of people in this space are energy workers, are coaches, are massage therapists, are OTs, like, working in the healthcare field. We have so many people and stay-at-home mums as well. Like we have so many people from so many different walks of life, and they're all doing it, but they're doing it authentically in their own way.
Yeah. And because, again, it's just about being you and a personal brand. It's not, leading with product. And that, because leading with product is old school sales. Like
Totally.
People buy from people, guys. They don't buy from big corps anymore. No one wants to buy that way anymore.
Yeah.
People want to buy through community and through connection.
Yeah.
So really it's just about being you. But, in my case, I didn't want to scale my healthcare business because I didn't want the responsibility of how that would actually scale. In the online space, it's much easier to scale without the same level of output, right? This is where a lot of women are coming to this business for, because even if, say, they have offers available, maybe they actually, and in my case too, maybe they want to offer them with more integrity, more energetic balance.
Yeah.
Right? More spaciousness in their calendar. So when they are serving their clients, they're giving a really energetically attuned and aligned service that's not always at the cost of their own body and energetics to deliver that service. And that that's where we're really talking about the expansion of the potential of what women are doing in the online space.
Absolutely.
Because when a woman is like completely filled up and in overflow, she can create an impact on a much wider level than is even really measurable. Right? That's the power of the feminine. But this is why having other businesses to come up and support you basically from underneath and give you options, so that you're not having to necessarily always go out there and create the next offer or get that next client or find that next job or that next pay rise that's going to make you feel safe enough.
Absolutely. Well, that's the thing. It's building legacy from alignment, right? As opposed to adrenaline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's old paradigm, new paradigm.
Totally.
The only way we were taught to work is really old paradigm, hustle and adrenaline.
Absolutely.
Which, I got to my 30s and I was like, this is not working.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I think, there was probably a time in the 60s when women really did need to stand up for the ability to work and for their right to do all of those things. But I do feel like it's gone too far the other way, where now it's expected that every woman is going to want to be in the workforce. And I know when it comes to motherhood, that's definitely not the case for a lot of people. And they're reaching that burnout long before they even have kids.
Yeah.
And so the reality of that is what happens when you do burn out. Whereas this beautiful business is so intelligent in the way that it's been created that it can just hold you. I mean, I know we have so many people who have had illnesses and things in our collective, and they've been able to continue to have income the entire time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really important. And I think it also allows us to come back to ourselves, our nervous systems, and reclaim our sacred currency of our time.
Yeah. And your energy and actually the emotional intelligence that you embody of as a woman that is not valued in traditional workplaces. Because if it were monetizable and you could be paid for that in that way, we would be getting paid what we're worth.
Totally.
Right. And when it comes back to the career thing, it's not that you can't do those jobs that are out there. It's more that, are they actually in alignment with the truth of who you are as a woman? And are you actually being recognized for the very unique gifts that you have as a woman in the workplace? And I would say very likely not.
Well, it's often not a full body yes for people.
Yeah.
It's I've got to make this work. I've got to push harder.
Yeah. Well, the industries that are aligned for women are usually grossly underpaid.
Totally.
And this is where it's about actually owning your worth and knowing the value of what you offer by exploring different ways that this comes back to the sovereign and empowered version of you, can create that for yourself, so that if you do have to go into those contexts, you've just got more balance, and your family isn't what you're sacrificing, or, being a carer or even a friend or a good partner. It's just about having a little bit more balance and still leading with your knowledge and your skill set and your career if you want to, but from a different energetic.
The work gets to be your worship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of just someone else's business or company or service that you're providing. Yeah.
And it feels so good that, so many people have gone, you know what, I may be a yoga teacher, for example, but now I'll just do 2 retreats a year because this is holding me so beautifully, and I get to do the other things that light me up.
Yeah.
It's such a different energy.
Very different energy. And it all that's kind of like how we've wrapped up this whole podcast, right? Is we've really spoken about energetics around identity, decision-making, body and health, and how it kind of ties together through the energetics of how we're letting things come, go, flow, and change within our lives. And really questioning like what we've been taught about how it should be versus like how it could actually feel if we allow ourselves to follow that nudge.
Well, yeah, you need the courage to listen, guys.
You need the courage
I mean,
to
that's
listen.
what I always say, but you really do. We have that inner voice that's always there. It's your compass. You just have to be brave enough to lean in, stay curious, listen to what it has to say, and then follow it.
Yeah.
Your life will literally become magic when you do that.
Yeah.
We just have so much resistance because we're told it's too good to be true.
Yeah. And it's like making decisions from that place versus making decisions from your logic, which is, again, what you were conditioned and taught to do, instead of actually empowering girls and women to go, your intuition is the strongest decision maker you'll ever have. What if you follow that to where you want to go next?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because then you get to show up in that energy that ripples out into the world. We change the paradigm. And I know for me and my family, that's what I want mirrored for my son. That's what I want him to see. I want him to recognize that way of working, to encourage the other women in his life that that's a possibility as well, so that the other generations don't have to go through the burnout. They can just be living in their cycles, which is how women are meant to live, honoring our intuition and that inner voice.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here, Rach. If anybody does want to follow you, learn more about you, all of that kind of stuff, where can we find you?
Yeah, on Instagram at sensing, SENSING_her. So sensing her.
Beautiful. And I did want to ask you one more question just before we go. What was the pivotal moment where you finally learnt to listen to yourself?
Oh, love this question. When everything broke down and there was no other way.
Nice. Yeah. You don't have to go into more detail. That's great.
One line. That's all I've got.
Well, that's the thing. Everybody's going to be able to relate to that too.
Yeah.
Right? We all get to some kind of a point where that all breaks down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening, beautiful soul. If you felt something shift, please reflect on it, share it, and let it ripple out into the world. If something spoke to your heart space today, I would love if you could share it with someone that you love and leave us a review, which will really help more of our soul fam to find their way here. If you want to connect with me, if you have questions, topics, if you want to know more about my courses, or if you even just want to say hi, please reach out. I would love to hear from you. Come find me over on Instagram at Lyssn Podcast. That's LYSSN Podcast. Or you can message me directly at Lyssn Natalie. My DMs are always open. Until next time, stay soft, stay true, keep living your bliss, and remember, your soul's song is always worth remembering. So, keep listening.